Good afternoon. I'm Emri Moore, and today join me is Representative Priscilla Giddings. So you're coming here today after a 2-day hearing regarding, complaints against you for participating in what people say is unbecoming behavior. Now, the hearing wrapped up today, and I'm guessing you know the outcome of what happened. So let's just start off with how you're feeling right now, and what is your reaction about the outcome?
Yeah, so today the Ethics Committee decided to censure me and remove me from one of my committees. The committee specifically is the Commerce and Human Resources
Mm-hmm.
Committee. And I would say I predicted this exactly. I mean, in my opening remarks, I said that this was a predetermined outcome. So I knew this was going to happen. And it's actually, I'm surprised they didn't try to expel me because the corruption runs deep. And ironically enough, they removed me from the committee where I've been working on legislation, House Bill 140, to stop the mandate for people being forced vaccines. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's pretty ironic. You can see how entrenched the corruption is specifically by Scott Bedke, who's my opponent in the race for lieutenant governor, and all of his allies.
Mm-hmm. So another question is, you know, you weren't in person today at that when they delivered the outcome. Is there a reason why you didn't want to be there in person to hear that?
Yeah, so House Rule 45, which guided all the procedures for the hearing, doesn't require the individual to be there, but they served me a subpoena, and the subpoena said that I had to appear as a testifying witness. Today, they did not call me to be a testifying witness, so there was no reason for me to appear.
Mm-hmm.
As far as me not being there more yesterday, it's purely because I didn't want to waste taxpayers' money. I mean, we already know what they were going to decide. No matter what I said, how many people testified, they already knew what they were going to say. And you could just see through it. I think Idahoans can see through the twisted truths.
Mm-hmm. And I know yesterday you all covered a lot during that hearing, and something that stood out to me and a lot of people there as we were talking about it in the at the Capitol. So yesterday you made it clear that there is no victim when it comes to referring to Jane Doe. Now, which you are correct. There is no victim because no charges have been filed against former Representative Von Ellinger. So, what is your response specifically to McCrosty that kept referring to Jane Doe as a sexual assault survivor today during its statement?
Yeah, so they just want to use the words when they're convenient for their own um, woke ideology, and they want to claim that they're on the side of truth and accuse me of not using truth. And then they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. I mean, it's pure hypocrisy. And so there again, I'm not surprised at what they are saying.
Mm-hmm. And you say the word hypocrisy. And so I'm going to go into my next question. So during the ethics committee statements today, Representative Brett Crane said that you made false claims saying that the committee is working out of bounds to law and order. Now, this came right after McCrosty referred to Jane Doe as a sexual assault survivor, not once, but multiple times. Now, with that said, the committee did not correct McCrosty. So you're hearing Brett Crane say that the committee does follow law and order and due process, but you have someone sitting on that ethics committee calling someone a sexual assault survivor. Do you still stand by your claim that the committee does not believe in due process after hearing those statements today?
Yeah, absolutely. Even more so because they were accusing me of things that there again weren't true, and then they're calling me a liar, all in while saying statements that weren't true.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just in this circle of misinformation, which I think they're just using there again as a political attack to try to smear my name and to support their candidate,
Mm-hmm.
the Scott Bedke, for the run for lieutenant governor.
Mm-hmm. And I did talk to Representative Crane after the outcome was said. And I asked him that question that He said that the committee believes in due process, and he stood there. Everyone actually on the committee did not correct McCrosty when he said a sexual assault survivor. And even yesterday, I want to mention this, Representative Burt Green called Jane Doe a rape victim, not an alleged rape victim. And that's really important to note. Crane told me that it's McCrosty's opinion. I guess when it comes to this case, opinions go out the window. It's about facts, because this is a huge accusation to make about someone. And again, do you think that it should be their opinion whether or not Jane Doe was sexually assaulted, or should they stick to the facts?
Yeah, absolutely. In the America that we grew up in, we used facts in the judicial system. And right now we are on the verge of just being in a total communist rule of facts and laws don't matter anymore. And now it's just power and control. Mm-hmm. And so it's very disturbing that they don't want to use facts.
Yes, disturbing to say the least. So I'm just going to, move on to our next question. So again, going back to Representative Crane, because he did speak a lot yesterday. You guys went toe-to-toe a lot during the day. And today, again, he said that that you did receive copies of evidence. But yesterday, you made it clear that you didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, that you never received evidence that you were looking at. Right when actually the testimony started, you asked them, "What is this?" Can you explain that a little bit more, of that evidence you did or did not receive, just for the public to know, because that was a heavy conversation that you guys had.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I showed up to testify, there was a book there with tabs, and it had a table of contents, and I had never seen any of that. I shouldn't say any of it. I had never received the table of contents, a book with tabs. So some of the documents in there I had received because they were part of the complaint and then my response, but I had never been given all of the evidence compiled there. Mm-hmm. And so for him to say that I had received the evidence, I think there, again, it was mixed words. He was saying I had some of it, mm-hmm. but I had never received any of it. And then they tried to make this argument that I didn't ask for it. And Rule 45 doesn't say that you have to ask for it. Mm-hmm. And so there again, they're just mixing words, and the hypocrisy is really deep. Still to this day, I do not have all of that evidence. So I sent an email to the committee demanding that I be given the evidence, mm-hmm. so that I can show Idahoans how wrong what they're doing to me is.
Mm-hmm. And so Representative Crane, again, I keep referencing him because I know you guys had a very heavy conversation, and something that stood out to me, and I kind of want to get a better explanation of this because I didn't clearly understand when you guys were talking about a public records request of your response. I don't actually know what question to ask you. So if you want to touch on that, because I don't want to say something that's incorrect about a public records request regarding your response.
Yeah, so they were claiming that because someone needs to ask specifically for the document before that the committee would send it out. Mm-hmm. And there really was just mixed words again, because the Rule 45 says that the process goes public after the committee votes. Therefore, the documents about that case are now a public record. Mm-hmm. And my point was that people, news media outlets, citizens asked for those documents, and the committee was only sending out the complaint. They weren't sending out all of the public records. Mm-hmm. And so they're kind of leaning on the rule instead of leaning on the statute, which is a higher authority than the rule, mm-hmm. that they should be releasing all of those public records. And that's what got us into this mess in the beginning, back in the Aaron von Ellinger case. Mm-hmm. And so still to this day, even when the secretary, I think the committee secretary sent me an email saying, here are the documents that will be released to the public. And my response was nowhere in there. And so I would say maybe they have a lack of communication between the secretary, the chairman, the members of the committee, and their interpretation of Rule 45.
So for, my next question, and this was brought to my attention yesterday, and I don't know if you were aware of it while you were testifying. So the Idaho Dispatch, a news organization in Idaho, put out an article saying that the lawyer that was obtained by the Ethics Committee was Christopher McCurdy. And it is known that the law firm that he works at donated to the Bedkey campaign. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if I read that incorrectly. Do you think that's fair that there is actually a lawyer representing the ethics committee that donated to the Bedkey campaign? Are you aware of that? And if so, what is your opinion about it?
Yeah, so it's a public record on the Secretary of State's campaign portal website. You can see all the contributions from Big Pharma to Holland and Hart. And it wasn't just the McCurdy who works for Holland and Hart. The main lawyer for the whole committee, Bill Myers, who is sitting up next to the chairman. So both of them work for Holland and Hart. And Bill Myers is a main partner of the organization. So they are receiving millions of dollars of your taxpayer money for legal issues for the state, and then also doing this whole ethics hearing and interpreting what they think Rule 45 means, all the while giving money to my opponent in the race for lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. It's scandalous. It's good old boy network. And that is why I'm running for lieutenant governor, because it needs to stop.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Priscilla Giddings. I appreciate you being here. And so as we wrap up our interview today, is there anything else that you want to add about the outcome or anything as you head on into the future of, I don't know what's going to come. So
sure. Thanks for asking, Emri. One of the things I think it hopefully was apparent to the public yesterday is that when you're in a very intense situation, you say a lot of things and not all of it is always accurate all the time. And there's no intent behind it. Representative Gannon misspoke several times, said a senior legislator harassed and assaulted somebody. Representative Crane misspoke, 24 versus 25 people signing it. Mm-hmm. In my opening remarks, I had said that the entire Democratic caucus had supported the complaint. And, looking back on that and how I phrased it, so I want to just share the quick math. There are 12 members of the Democrat caucus. 4 of them sit on that committee. And so they are not really eligible per se to sign the complaint. And so in my head, it was all of the Democrats that were eligible to sign it, really. Mm-hmm. I would, love to pose the question if any of the other 4 who sat on the committee, wouldn't sign it because they all voted to support it. So, I will stand by that all the Democrats really, in spirit, were against me on that. Mm-hmm. And I may have, misspoke when it comes to the 8 versus 12 on who's eligible and who's not eligible. And so it's too bad that was the thing that they wanted to hold against me. But hopefully Idahoans can see through that.
And I think that a lot of us can, and you explaining it just right here, it makes complete sense. And hopefully the public will be able to see this interview and you explain that, because I think a lot of things might have been misinterpreted, and you just coming on record and saying that it's explained well. So that wraps up our interview. Again, thank you so much, Representative Giddings, for being here today.
Thank you, Emri.
Mm-hmm.